When most people think of Hamilton, they consider their military field watches and producing watches in the United States and Lancaster County for many decades. Today we're looking at a brand new khaki field model with the Hamilton Khaki Field Expedition in Appalachian Trail, not too far away from their original home. So I am not the greatest of explorers, but I felt with a watch like this, a brand new watch from the Khaki Field collection, I wanted to put it through its paces for a review. So I'm here in the Appalachian Trail, not too far outside of Lancaster County, which was the home for Hamilton for many decades since 1892 to the mid-20th century. Now that is actually way more of an important area when it comes to a hotbed of watchmaking than many people probably know. For one, it's the home of Mount Joy, which is going to also be the home of RGM watches, also houses the National Watch and Clock Museum, and is also a location and place where Lillet's, the watchmaking school, calls home one of the best in the entire nation. So the watch we're looking at is the Hamilton Khaki Field Expedition for its more formal name. Comes in a couple different case sizes, different dial varieties, as well as different strap and bracelet options. I have the 37mm on my wrist, but we'll go through both of the different case sizes. But the notable thing here is it also comes with a rotating bezel, a compass bezel. So we'll talk about this watch in general and also how to use that bezel if you are, say, in the woods and want to figure out what direction you need to go. Hopefully I don't get lost today. Taking a closer look at the on-wrist experience presented by both sizes of the new Expedition collection, it's important to start out by saying that it's very cool to see a brand leaning into multiple case sizes right from the initial launch of the new model family, with one or the other of these two sizes likely to work well for the vast majority of wrists out there. For those with smaller wrists or anyone who appreciates more restrained wearing dimensions, the smaller Expedition comes in with a 37mm diameter, 11.8mm thickness, and a 43.8mm lug to lug, feeling true to size and also very much in keeping with the mid-size trends. If you require a bit more presence on the wrist, the larger Expedition measures at 41mm in diameter, the same 11.8mm thickness, and 47.9mm lug to lug. Again, wearing true to its diameter, if not ever so slightly smaller thanks to the amount of real estate being occupied by the rotating compass bezel and compact lug to lug. With 20mm lugs in both sizing formats, the Expedition models are available with either a range of rugged leather straps with straightforward signed pin buckles, or the option of a stainless steel 3-link bracelet if you're looking for something more substantial. Given the sportier, outdoor themed nature of this model family, the Expedition also wears well on a wide variety of nylon straps as well. As you'd expect from what is essentially a field watch, the finishing and architecture utilized across the case are rather utilitarian, but these have a much more defined and refined details than a conventional khaki field case. It features straightforward 90-degree angles at the lugs, vertical case sides, and a linear brush finish essentially everywhere you look, including the entire bracelet and clasp for the bracelet variants. That said, resting atop the case is a nicely finished 60-click bidirectional rotating bezel that forgoes the more common elapsed time and countdown layouts for more seldom seen compass graduations. So now let's discuss how to use a compass bezel to see where you're going in a place like today in the middle of the woods. So all you're going to need to know, for one, to start off, if you're in the northern or southern hemisphere, because that will determine what direction you're going to be looking at. I am in the northern hemisphere, so that's the example I'm going to be utilizing here. From there, we also have to factor in daylight savings time. Because the rotation of our planet doesn't factor that in its location to the sun, we can't have daylight saving time be the time indicated on this watch. So I've made that adjustment. Now, all I need to do, and although it is a bit difficult here today because I have overcast skies, and I'm in the middle of the woods, it's hard to actually get direct access to the sun, but I saw it was poking out right around here. So what I need to do is look at my watch, take my hour hand, and directly point it at the sun. What I can do from there is I will adjust the bezel on the outside perfectly between that hour hand, which is perfectly positioned in alignment with the sun in my body, and we'll rotate the bezel to put south, because I'm in the northern hemisphere, directly between noon or 12 o'clock and my hour hand. What that will allow me to do is see what direction south is in relation to where the sun's location is where I am at. From there, I can rotate 180 degrees, directly north, go back in position, east, west. And this is a pretty nice way of being able to navigate around. You could do this with a mechanical watch, with a compass bezel, even easier, and it's bi-directional too, so it's easier to rotate around. So a pretty cool feature if you want to impress your friends, but also in addition could potentially save your life if you're out here in the wilderness. Getting back to the case itself, a proportionally large 7mm crown rests in its usual 3 o'clock positioning, offering screw-down functionality and pairing with the screw-down case back and facilitating this model family's capable 100 meters of water resistance. Now, set beneath the safety of a slightly domed sapphire crystal offering anti-reflective coating, the Expedition serves up a paired back dial design that blends old and new elements for a rugged effect. The Expedition dial is equipped with a broad set of printed Arabic numerals that evoke the feel of Hamilton's historic field designs, paired with the handset offering a tapered syringe-style minute hand and arrow hour hand. At the outskirts, a printed minute track follows the color of the indices while being interrupted at the 5-minute positions by small rectangular plots of luminescent material. And also utilized on the hands, the lume is in this case of a darker faux vintage shade that is going to cause some polarization, as it also is not terribly effective in its nighttime legibility. Dial text is very low key with only Hamilton's retro logo and word mark at noon, and automatic text at 6, speaking to the excellent caliber oscillating on the watch's flip side. Being easily seen through the Exhibition screw-down case back, we have the Hamilton H10 caliber. Commonly used caliber by the brand for many years, and this movement structure is being supplied by ETA, the movement manufacturing arm for the Swatch Group, and is more formally known as the ETA C07.611, and is utilizing the base architecture from the ETA 2824 with a frequency that is being slowed down from the traditional 28,800 vibrations per hour, or 4 Hz, to a slower 21,600 vibrations per hour, 3 Hz, allowing for a longer power reserve in the process. The movement itself doesn't offer much in the area of finishing apart from the decorated rotor, but that is not why you're buying this watch and looking at this movement in the first place. The caliber utilizes a Nivacron hairspring that helps to alleviate the influence of magnetic fields on timekeeping and features an impressive power reserve of 80 hours. Given these watches have more of a free-sprung balance architecture, which will drop the conventional regulating organ of the ETA 2824, in turn, the movements will be more resilient against potential shocks, and they also will typically perform very well in the accuracy department in my experience. Speaking anecdotally about the timekeeping presented by the set of samples we have on hand, we tested watches across 5 positions and achieved single-digit variation per all the examples. Very solid numbers for a caliber that makes no specific claims regarding its accuracy. And for what it's worth, there is no ghost date for this watch, given that it is going to have, of course, a no date. In terms of general operation, just to unpack here, 21,600 vibrations per hour, 3 Hz. It does feature hacking and hand winding, hacking stop in the second hand when you pull the crown to the farthest position, and a power reserve of 80 hours. So now let's talk a little bit more about the Hamilton Khaki Field Expedition. So just some pros and cons now. I've had some time to spend with this watch. To begin, we'll start with some of the cons and we'll shift into some of the pros. I think number one is the positioning of this watch is a little bit more elevated compared to the conventional Khaki Field. You're talking about closer to $1,000 here, more in that Hamilton Khaki Field Murph territory than it is the general entry-level Khaki Field. Now, you are getting some things to go along with it that add to that presence. I think the finishing is really good, but that definitely needs to be considered. In addition, the lume and anti-reflective coating could certainly be better. I think the anti-reflective coating on this watch is better than some other Khaki Fields out there, but maybe not to the point where, especially if you have to incorporate the sun, where that could become a challenge. Also, when it comes to the lume, not going to be the best given the faux markings, which also could be a pain point. And generally speaking, as cool as the compass in action is, it is rather quirky, so some people just might not like that. But now let's shift into some of the pros. And I talked about the bezel action, the finishing on the bezel. I think it's much more elevated. This doesn't feel like your run-of-the-mill Khaki Field on your wrist. It feels more elevated. It feels it's presented in a way that's more refined in its practice while giving that everyday utility and not deviating too far from the conventional Khaki Field path. Also, I think Hamilton absolutely nailed the sizes of these watches, 37mm, 41mm, wearing true to size, if not slightly smaller. So in reality, you're looking at like a 36 to 40mm case size for some of these, maybe a little bit larger than that, like 36.5, right in that range for the smaller one. And then for the 41, could creep into that 40mm territory. As I mentioned, bracelet and case options, very solid. I think the bracelet for these watches are absolutely worth going for if you want to go that route. I think for these watches, they look more at home on a bracelet compared to other Khaki Field models, but still, even if you want something with a bracelet, elevate that feel a bit more, give it more of this sporty upside, you could do it without question, and it looks the part with a great bracelet and clasp. Movement is going to be a reliable workhorse while getting 80 hours of power reserve in the process, pretty much establishing that new standard for a watch in this price category. And in addition to that, at the end, 100 meters of water resistance gives this everyday viability and a nice step up compared to the standard hand-wound versions of the Khaki Field that only have 50 meters of water resistance. So all in all, I think this is an interesting watch. I like it for what it represents currently, but what I also like here is the bones of this piece, meaning this is a design style that I think could be built on. Imagine different bezel styles, 12-hour, 24-hour. You could get way more experimental with this design, and I think it was something that was missing from the Khaki Field collection. They do these diver-oriented pieces, but when I think of Hamilton, I think the Khaki Field, of course, is the core identity and ethos behind the brand that will always just be there. So they have to just maximize it for all it's worth. And this was one area that was maybe potentially lagging behind some of the other things that they were doing in the Khaki Field collection. So well received, well done, and I think is another consideration for those that want a Khaki Field with a bit more of a exploring upside if there wasn't enough there already. But guys, that's my take here on this new Hamilton Khaki Field Expedition. What is your take on this watch? Do you like it? Do you not like it? If you enjoyed the video and enjoyed the outdoors, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Really would appreciate that. Also, check out these watches on TeddyBaldassarre.com, as well as all the other brands that we're carrying, over 30 brands, quick and fast fulfillment, dedicated customer support, and a full factory warranty for all the products that we offer on our site. TeddyBaldassarre.com is all self-funded through the selling of watches on our site. We don't have the brands that pay us for any of this content here. So if you are in the market for a watch, we'd absolutely love to have your business. It allows us to keep doing what we're doing, and we love what we do, even if it brings me outside and gets me in places I'm not as much used to. But guys, we'll see you all next time. Thank you again for watching. See you all very soon.